Welcome to Lesson 16. Go ahead and complete the first page of your math menu. All right, go ahead and turn to Main Dish Part 1. Working with prime and composite numbers is actually going to help us a lot with our main dishes today. So we're going to be talking about simplest form of fraction. Simplest form is when we can make the numerator and denominator of a fraction as small as possible. So you're going to get a chance to see this, but instead of saying 3/6, we would like to say in simplest form that this is actually 1/2. 1/2 is a lot easier of a fraction to deal with, to picture in our mind. So the smaller the numbers that we can get when we're dealing with our fractions, the better. Now, in order to do that, we're going to talk about finding a common factor between numbers. And a common factor is just factors that multiple numbers both have. Let's put this to the test. So we're looking at 4/8 down here. We're going to find the factors of both 4 and 8. So I'm going to put 4 and 8. So I'm going to list out my factors. 1 times 4, 2 times 2. So my factors are 1, 2, and 4. And then for 8, I have 1 times 8, 2 times 4. And that's all I've got for this one. So 1, 2, 4, and 8. Now looking at these two fractions, I need to find not just factors that they have for both numbers. I need to find what's called the greatest common factor. That is going to be the GCF, the greatest common factor. So looking at these numbers, what is the number that they both have in common that is the greatest possible number that they have in common? Well, they both have 1, but there's more than just 1 that they have in common. They both have 2, but there's another number that's still bigger than 2 that they have in common. 4 is what's going to be our greatest common factor. With that greatest common factor, we have now figured out that we can divide both our numerator and denominator by that greatest common factor. And when we get that, we get our simplified fraction of 1/2. So 4/8 is really representing 1/2, and 1/2 is a lot easier to work with. So let's do the same thing. Let's simplify 15/20ths. First, we're going to factor out the numerator and the denominator. So I factored out 15, now I'm going to factor out 20. One, 2, 4, 5, 10, 20. And now looking at these factors, 5 is my greatest common factor. It's the factor that both numbers have, and it's the largest number that I can get to, which means I can divide both my numerator and my denominator by 5, getting the simplified fraction of 3/4. Let's do another one. 20 divided by 30. If I factor out 20 and 30, I've got a decent amount of factors for these numbers. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, 20. Then if I factor out 30, so 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, 30. I'm noticing that, I see 10 and 10 on both sides. So when I divide both the numerator and the denominator by that greatest common factor, I get 2/3. Now, some of you are like, well, I can just tell what the greatest common factor is. So I just know that I can divide both of these by 2. And eventually that's where you're going to get. In this one, we get lucky. We do get to the simplest terms. I can't divide 2 and 5 by the same thing, so that's as simple as I can go. Same thing, so going back down to this fraction actually, we can't divide 2 and 5. If I was to factor these out, 1 times 2, so 1 and 2, 1 times 5, 1 and 5. The only common factor that they have together is 1, and if I divide 2 and 5 by 1, I get the same fraction. So this tells me that 2/5 is already in simplest form. 2/8, we can use our knowledge that, hey, we can divide both of these by 2 to get the simplest form of 1/4. Go ahead and turn to main dish part 2. These 3 problems, you're going to get the chance to solve them just like we normally would. Stack your mixed numbers, stack your fractions, but this time you're going to be asked to simplify your answers. So let's go ahead and work out this first one together. 4 and 4/6 minus 3 and 1/6. When I subtract my fraction, I get 1 and 3/6. But I need to make sure that this fraction is in simplest form. So I'm going to factor out my 3 and 6. I see the greatest common factor of 3. So my final answer is actually simplified 1 and 1/2. Now before you get going with this, I do want to make sure that we're getting to the point where I could have looked at 3/6 and been like, yeah, I can divide both of these by 3. But if you have the fraction 10, let's do 10/20. Looking at these, I'm like, oh, I can divide both of these by 2. So I'd get 5/10, and then I would just say, oh, I'm good, I divided both of them by the same number. Here's the problem with that. You have to divide it by the greatest common factor because this fraction 5/10 can still be simplified. I can divide 5 by 5 and 10 by 5 to get to 1/2. So if you would have done the greatest common factor here, it would have been the greatest common factor is actually 10, and then you would have gotten to 1/2 right away. So either way works. If you need to make those multi-steps, you can, or find the greatest common factor and get there right away. Go ahead and do the next 2 problems on your own. All right, hopefully you were able to see on that last one that 6 and 7/10 was already as simplified as we can go. The only greatest common factor that they had in common was the 1, which means this is simplified. We don't have to do any simplifying work. All right, good luck on your dessert today.